The poisoned blood. Bandhu Madhav. Come harvest time with everyone busy winnowing and sifting. When the birds whirl in the sky, my heart bleed like a wounded bird as I recall the bygone harvest of 12 years ago, when I had gone to meet my grandfather Yetlaya Ajra to us at Kupar. As usual, Grandpa Yetlaya took me with him as he went out looking for a job of winnowing and trading out the corn at the threshing floor. As a matter of fact, he intended to bake a cucumber or a marrow or a few peanuts, if possible, at one of the farms for me, and by taking me along to assist him, he hoped to get a slightly larger share of corn and a few years of jover for us. We stopped at a threshing floor. There, tiding a pile of dishevelled ears of corn, was Babu Patel. Grandpa approached Patel and saluted him with a joha. Acknowledging Grandpa's salute like a swaggering Maharaja, Babu Patel said coolly, "What brings you here at such an early hour? Hope you have not come here with your mind set on evil. For don't they say an encounter with a Mahal in morning, and you are doomed for good." Grandpa displayed no reaction to Babu Patel's insolence. On the contrary, he meekly and with the utmost respect said to Patel, "Why did you say that, Anna? I am your slave. I have come to your own purpose on hearing of the operations that you are threshing for. My lord is our bread giver, and we find it a privilege to beg for our share of corn. Master, I am your begging Mahal, and feel proud to be so." But Grandpa's humility had the reverse effect on Babu Patel, who turned more sarcastic. "Don't give me that line. You are no longer the Mahalmangers of the good old days to beg for your share of corn. You are now Harijans. You have even started claiming equality. So I was told, eating and drinking with us at the city hotels. So there remains absolutely no difference between us, does there? Now that you are peers, tell me, why did you still beg for a share of the corn?" And yet I could see no adverse effect on Babu's tone on Grandpa. In fact, I discerned a sense of pride in him as he straightened himself and said, "How could you say that, Anna? This Ella is certainly not one of those claiming equality. How can one in that case account for God's creating religion and the castes? Come on, don't you know that the rain god got enraged because you, the Maharas and monks, have profaned religion and abandoned caste, have defied Lord Vidobha of Padarpur? How else can you account for the drying up of the Chandrabhaga river?" Babu Patel listened to justify his insults. I could take it no more. I felt my cheeks burning, but I quelled my temper and cutting Babu Patel short in the middle of his fairy tirade burst out. "Patel, will you kindly tell me what you mean when you accuse us of forgetting religion, abandoning our caste, and of polluting God? If a religion cannot tolerate one human being, treating another simply as a human being, what's the use of such an inhumane religion? And if our mere touch pollutes the God, why were the Mahans or monks created at all? And who, may I know who indeed created them? And would you please tell me the name of the God whom the Maharas and monks can claim as their own?" My retort made Bapu Patel wild. I had addressed him simply as Patel, whereas the rest of our clan called him Anna or elder brother, and to top it all a Mahal was answering him by. Violent anger shook him and he screamed at me. "Look at that nose, snot-nosed brat. He can't even keep his nose clean and yet has the audacity to talk back to me. Yet Talia, who's good for nothing, will help have you bird with you." The violent rage of Babu Patel sent Grandpa into a panic, knowing too well that in a fit of temper Babu Patel was capable even of committing murder. He started shaking violently. In a voice stricken with fear and in the humblest of tones, therefore Grandpa replied, "He is my eldest daughter's son from Sangalwadi. He is too young he is too young to know how to speak to his elders. He is city bred and has learned to read and write. Need he so be so impudent but just because he knows how to read and write? And mind, even if a Mahal or monk gets educated, no one will call him a Brahmin. A Mahal is a Mahal even if he passes LLB and becomes a barrister. You should know the story of Chokamela. Was he led into the temple by Vithoba or Pandapur? Why, I ask you, has Chokamela have been kept at the foot of the temple? One should always keep to one's own position. Having been brought up in the city of Sangli, I was a little bolder than the rest of my clan. So I said to Patel, "What's this position you are talking about, Patel? And whose position?" At my reply, Patel exploded. "Look here, boy. Simply because you have had a little education, don't think you can teach me. You should know that God intended to have a definite hierarchy when He created the Brahmin, the Maharada, the fisherman, the weaver, the Mahamang, the dog, and the cobbler in that order. Everyone must abide by this scheme and act accordingly. Put every man in his proper place, as they wisely say. A chapel is never worshipped in place of God, is it? He paused. I was determined to give tit for tat. So you think you can treat us like your footwear? But are we really like that? Aren't we also made of the same flesh and blood as the rest of you? We too are born after 9 months in our mother's womb. Isn't it logical then? I ended rhetorically. That basically there's hardly any difference between us. Yatalaya, have you come here to work or to quarrel with me? If you and your grandson are so well off, why did you come to me to beg? Get lost. A little learning doesn't entitle that boy to teach me, understand? And this grandpa Yadalaya literally fell at the feet of the Babu Patel and appealed to him with tears in his eyes. Don't say that, please. He's a child, just a boy. Please don't take him seriously. He hasn't seen enough of the world and doesn't know how to speak to his elders. And then turning to me, he chided, Mahadeva, don't just stand there gaping at Anna. Pick up that grumbling hoe and get to work. I felt helpless and dumbfounded as he handed me the hoe. Moving the grumbling hoe in the heap of the corn, somehow I managed to suppress my anger. Babu Patel was standing close by watching us for some time. After a while, he left, but not before warning us. Finish the job before I return from breakfast. We will take the bullocks out for the winnowing in the evening. Hurry up. Don't you know you have to work hard if you want your share of corn? Grandpa and me yoked ourselves together and set up on the work at hand. Halfway through, Granby said that he would to go to Grandma Patel's threshing floor to fetch a tripod and a few measures of corn, and I was left alone to clean up. I was working hard at the threshing floor. The red hot sun was scorching. Exhaustion and the unbearable heat of the sun made me sweat profusely all over. I was famished, but Grandpa had still not returned, and I was far from the end. Wild ideas began to cook in the heated cauldron of my brain. I was worried at the thought of Babu Patel turning up suddenly and finding the job unfinished. And since I had already roused his anger, I thought I was going to be easy prey. Before the thought had faded, Babu Patel, now accompanied by Tukha Makdum, arrived. I was scared stiff. I was lagging behind. There was no trace of Grandpa yet. And here stood my tormentor. Your grandson of Yadale, has your grandfather dropped dead? Shouted Babu Patel. He's gone to Grandpa's Patel's farm to fetch a tripod. I faltered, already frightened. At that, Babu Patel was extremely furious and started abusing Grandpa in the most humiliating terms. Has he gone to fetch the tripod or to war with his wife? Tukka Magdum did his faithful bit by aggravating the matter. Oh, these Maharas are a lousy lot. You will never find them at their work. These good for nothing fellows only know to while away their time. I could control myself no more, and yet I found myself pleading before Babu Patel. Why did you abuse him? Grandpa will be here soon. Unknowingly, I had added fuel to the fire, for the inflamed Patel was now screaming with biting sarcasm. So you don't want me to abuse your grandfather? Should I then touch his feet? And turning to Tukka Magdum, he said, I have been watching this chap since morning. This brat of a Maha has been talking back. No use telling me, Anna. Just give him a hard kick in the loins. He deserves nothing better. Tukka Magdum insisted him. Presently, Grandpa arrived running like mad. His very appearance was enough for Babu Patel to let loose his volley of abuse. I say, Yatalaya, were you assigned to do a job or to play hide and seek? It's past noon now. And this grandson of yours has only been shuffling meals. Stop working this instant at the threshing floor. I shall manage it myself. Get up. I will give you nothing. Get up. Don't do a harsh thing like that, Anna. You can kick us, but if you like, but please don't disturb us. Grandpa pleaded with tears in his eyes, but the stone-hearted Patel was not moved. We eventually finished the assigned job, yoked the bullocks, and moved them onto the threshing floor. But after we had told throughout the day, Babu Bhatta didn't give Grandpa even a few measures of java. Grandpa was crestfallen, dejected as we left the threshing floor. However, Grandpa couldn't fail to notice the pen were still. Rancid pieces of bread lay scattered on the ground in the front of the oxen. It's rightly said that as the chamber has his eye on the chapel, so does the Mahar on stale bread. Flies were swarming over the mouldering crumbs which had turned green and full. Grandpa begged Babu Patel for those crumbs. The oxen seemed to have refused to eat them. They were smeared with dung and urine. Grandpa collected them all happily and put them neatly into his sackcloth, and he left the place but not before blessing Patil. I followed him with my head hung low. There was a heavy silence between us. Finally breaking it, Grandpa said, "The landlord got angry with me because of you, Mahadeva. I had thought that having told the world that we would get a larger measure of corn. Now what shall we fast for supper? We will cut down the crumbs you collected. Haven't we got these rotten pieces as a reward for laboring all day long? A good exchange indeed. Are we any better than cats or dogs? Throw a few crumbs at us, and we are happy, I mocked. You said it, Grandpa exclaimed. Mahadeva, will the Mahas and monks never be happy? What a humiliating life we have. Do you think I feel happy about being oppressed by the landlords and rest of the villagers? I too want to retaliate and have a good fight for the humiliation and the injustice they have been piling upon us. But, my boy, I am helpless. I see no end to this suffering, lamented Grandpa. But why should it go on? Even a lion locked in a cage all his life forgets how to hunt. This hereditary landlord has trapped us Maharas for good. How can we dream of doing business independently since we have been fed all our lives on the charity of others? What achievement can we ever boast of? All that comes from begging is more begging. As I erupted spiritedly, filled with the disgust, Grandpa Yadalaya stood gaping at me stunned. I could see the admiration he felt for me. He seemed to be enveloped by an impenetrable darkness on all sides. After a while, he said, Mahadeva, I fully agree with what you say. But how does one escape from the fix of this hereditary holding? By abandoning it. There's no alternative, I replied immediately. He walked in silence for a few moments. He looked as if he were lost in deep thought. Suddenly he stopped and turning to me asked, how will the Maharaj survive if they abandon the light right? Thanks to it we can at least get these tail crumbs. Only this way can I approach the landlord and beg for bread as my right. But if that too is gone, what are we left with? When I said we should abandon the land right, I didn't mean we should give it up literally. But we must stop begging under the pretext that we are getting our rightful share of corn. And instead of enslaving ourselves to lifelong labor in exchange for that right, we must free ourselves from the land bondage and learn to live independently with a sense of pride. We Maharas have been misled by the false notion of land right, taking it as a rightful favor to beg for bread as long as we live. We forgot all the while that the crumbs that gave us make us slaves. I suddenly stopped talking as we approached home. You are right, my boy, I am convinced. You have touched my heart, said Grandpa and threw a few crumbs from his sack to the door squatting opposite our house. Grandma came rushing out of the house and shouted at Grandpa, have you gone mad? If you give all the foods to this dog, what shall we eat? She collected all the pieces thrown before the dogs and cleaned the mud off them. She then mixed them with the dulle and cooked them for supper. At night, everyone at home greedily hogged the stuff. With that heavy meal, we fell asleep. The next morning, we woke up to the sound of the grandma writhing in agony like a poisoned dog. He was vomiting and purging too. All the neighbors huddled together and started suggesting various types of remedies. I was sitting helplessly by Grandpa's bed, confused. But even at that time, in spite of myself, I could visualize the entire predicament of the Maher caste. In those fancied moments, I thought I saw the compelling milkweed pieces of bread smeared with the dung and urine taken from Babu Patel's cow pen floating before my eyes. The share of corn which Grandpa always took as his rightful dole from Babu Patel, I was convinced beyond doubt, had caused the vomiting and dysentery. He seemed to have taken to the heart the whole episode at Patel's threshing farm. Sitting by the side of his bed, shedding tears, I felt benumbed and disappointed. My mind was wailing in agony. When shall the meek and humble people of my community be uplifted, and when shall they be treated like human beings? When? In the meantime, my maternal uncle had brought a doctor all the way from Sangli. Examining Grandpa, the doctor asked, what did he eat last night? I went into the kitchen and brought the earthen pot in which the rancid crumbs of bread mixed with the dully had been cooked. Putting it in front of the doctor, I said, these are 4 day old stale and moldering pieces of bread cooked with dully. This is what he ate last night. The doctor looked surprised and he said, that's it. The mold in the stuff created a toxin. That toxin must have caused his dysentery. It's a serious case. Grandpa showed great amazement as he lay in bed. What? You say the crumbs had turned to poison? It was in fact poison? Poison, but really poison. Grandpa lost hope. The dysentery and the vomiting had almost killed him, and the doctor's diagnosis was the last straw. None of the medicines suggested by the doctor proved effective, and we became helpless. Seeing him in agony, I broke down. I could barely speak to him. Grandpa, please say something to me. I said and started weeping. Grandma was crying as well, Uncle too started sobbing. Mustering all his strength and with the tremendous willpower, Grandpa uttered a few words. Mahadeva, don't weep, my boy. I am an old thing now, and being so old, I may stop breathing any moment. What can I say to you now? I can only say, never depend on the age or blood associated with our case. Get us as much as education as you can. Take away this accursed blood from the mouths of the Mahas. This poisonous blood will finally kill the very humanness of man. There he stopped abruptly, turned his face away, and closed his eyes forever. Grandma was the first to react and broke into a loud wail. My aunt joined her, and soon everyone had joined in a deafening lament. The ominous lapwings too were making shrill and piercing notes in the sky. I was numb. Everything felt numb. Amidst the commotion, I could still hear Grandpa's last word. This poisonous blood will finally kill the every humanness of man. The recollection of these words put out my sorrow at the loss of my beloved Ajah. Instead, I was inflamed by overwhelming fury and disgust that made me want to retaliate. And therefore, when it is harvest time with everyone busy winnowing and sifting, and the birds were in the sky, my heart bleeds like a wounded bird as I recall that bygone harvest 12 years old now.